It has been forever since I have used these. This video is not sponsored by any of the companies mentioned. Hi, Shanna Rowe Jackson here from Caution Artists at Play, and today I'm going back to an old favorite of mine. I am finally going to be playing around with some oil pastels again. It has been far too long. It is cold and gloomy outside, so I thought it was time to do something green and lush and beautiful. So I will be using these and some colored pencils to draw a picture of a green pepper from my garden, which, oh man, I miss my garden. I miss the warmth. But yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing today. This is not meant to be a step-by-step tutorial, but I will be going over some of my favorite techniques to do with these tools, as well as just talking about my general process when I'm working with oil pastels. So let's get to it. Starting on the project now, I am working on some of the Luxe Archival sanded paper. I love this paper for oil pastels. It's fantastic, and it's particularly useful because I like to use colored pencil with my oil pastel. So it's got a nice tooth to it that allows me to layer the way that I like to. And the oil pastels that I'm using today are the Van Gogh oil pastels. I love them. I love the texture of them. I find them to be creamy and beautiful, and they are relatively inexpensive, and they have light fast ratings on them. So I definitely enjoy these pastels. This is basically the oil pastel that I use the most, though I have a couple others that I've bought and I need to review soon. And then I am also using some of the Caran d'Ache Pablo pencils because they grip really well on this paper to begin with. So I thought that these would be a great addition to my oil pastel routine. So that's actually why I ended up buying these pencils, was so I could use them with my oil pastels. I have to admit, it has been a while since I've worked with oil pastels. I don't think I really touched them at all in 2023, and that's just a shame because I really enjoy working with them. And so I am starting out with a blurry background here. This is going to be a close-up of a green pepper in my garden. I took this photo a couple years ago, and it is winter here. It is very cold and gray and brown and crappy out. And I was really craving greens, and so I was going through my reference photos and my preliminary sketches, and I already had a sketch of this one made up, and I thought this is the perfect time, and I thought it would be a great subject for my oil pastels. I actually had put a poll out a while ago asking you what you would like to see for an oil pastel piece, and overwhelmingly I got grapes. Grapes was the winner, and I have to admit I did start to do a piece with grapes a long time ago. But I am not clean enough to do it with a white background, and the reference photo that I took had a white background, so I'm going to have to just get better references of my grapes this summer. That way there I can actually do a piece with grapes. But green pepper came in second. Like, a lot of people commented and said they want to see green pepper, so I thought this is the time to do it. And as you can see, I'm starting out in the background, creating that blurry effect, which pastel is a perfect medium for. And you're going to see me doing a lot of adjustments because I'm not copying my photo exactly. Like, I start off really being pretty faithful to it, but there's a few things that look a little wonky. They translate okay in the original reference photo that I took, but not as great in practice when it comes to a drawing. So you're going to see me go back and forth adjusting a lot of these things. But mainly I am laying in my pastel first, and then I am coming in and refining with blending tools and with my colored pencils. And once I lay the colored pencil down on top of the oil pastel, the colors actually blend together really well. I'm using mostly blending stumps for this, but I also have some Jane Davenport like wand blenders. They're fantastic, but they're not available on Amazon anymore. You can only get them directly from the Jane Davenport site. Soft tools, which are the tools that people use for pan pastels, would work well also. I just didn't happen to reach for those tools when I was working with this. The colors that I'm using in the oil pastels are mostly the sap green, the green yellow, both the light and the dark, the turquoise blue, some greenish gray with some cold gray, and of course lots of white, especially in the background and for highlights. And then with my Pablo's colored pencils, I brought in mouse gray, slate gray, dark green, khaki green, olive gray, and white. And I think I brought in like one dark green polychromos at some point. I don't know if it was officially called dark green. It was just a dark green colored pencil because polychromos works well on this paper as well. And you're just going to see me go back and forth with layering and blending until I get the effect that I like. I'm being looser and more painterly in the background and tightening things up as they move forward in the picture plane. I have to say, I was suffering from like migraines during the time that I was creating this, and I was doing this in between the pain. So a lot of this got done very quickly. It only took about 3 hours all told, I think, but it was over different periods of time to create it because of the migraines that I was having. And then later on, I came in and refined once I was feeling a little bit better and I could focus better. So this little stem here gets changed out completely. This is one of the things that I end up changing in the future from my reference photo. It really looks like it just kind of disappears behind that pepper, and that's how it was in the reference photo. It looks like it should be attached to the one that's coming out from above the pepper, but they actually are two different branches and it doesn't translate well. And so I do end up coming in later on, blurring that out a little bit, and then making it look like it's more attached and connected to the one that comes out from behind it above. So that way there it looks like it's the same thing, because it bugs the crap out of me that they don't line up. But in the reference, they don't line up either, because they're technically two different branches, even though you can't even really tell where the one that's coming from the bottom is going. I think it's attached to the leaf that comes out from the side, and you can't really tell where the one from above went either. It's just kind of messy because of the camera effect with the bokeh. And so you're going to see me adjust that later. But basically when I did that stem, I laid in my pastel, and then I came in and I did the details with colored pencil after. And I'm mentioning that because I lost the footage to the main stem. It didn't record, or I don't know. I don't have the footage for the main stem. But basically I did this main stem the same way that I did that little stem from the bottom. So I apologize that the footage isn't there, but basically I laid in my sap green, and then I came in with my colored pencils and did the shading and the detail and the lines and the ridges there. And then I had started to do my pepper because I was getting really excited about it, and then I'm like, I really should be doing my stem and all that first, because the stem is kind of like the darkest part, and I wanted to get those values in. And then I came back and started working on the rest of the pepper again. And I defined my shapes of my highlights because that part was really important. And then I came in with some pretty messy vertical streaks, keeping them slightly curved to keep the contour of the pepper in mind, letting them blend together a little bit to mimic that look of the light and dark streaks that you see in green peppers. This part of the piece is meant to be the warmest, most contrasted part of the piece because I want it to come forward. I put a lot of blues in my background to help it recede and keep the pepper looking warmer in comparison. I am, however, using some blue in my highlight because the sky is reflecting off the top of that pepper since it's still on the plant out in my garden. And then I'm just making sure that I'm getting my lights where they need to be and I'm darkening everything the way I need it to be. Mostly just a base of my yellow-green, or green-yellow, as they phrase it, and sap green in the pepper itself. And then coming in with some of those darker colored pencils. I used a lot of the mouse or slate. I used a lot of gray to get the darkness within the green. I didn't want to jump right to black, and the grays mixed really well with the greens. And I used blending stumps a lot during this because I wanted to be able to straighten up my edges. And that has the point to it, so it makes it much easier. And you're just going to see me going back and forth now with my pencils, trying to kind of beef up that highlight a little bit and get the shapes the way that I wanted to make sure the contour of the pepper is there. You will see some crumbs here and there on this piece. That's just the nature of working with oil pastels. I just use a drafting brush and gently brush them away. And for the ones that I wasn't able to do that with, because this is mostly monochromatic, I found ways to blend them in and cover them, and it was fairly easy. And so it is easy to correct things because of the fact that oil pastels don't really dry and you can just smudge them around to get rid of things. So don't be intimidated by oil pastels. Okay, so here I am correcting that stem, or at least fixing it in a way that was satisfying to me. I brought some tape in so I could make sure that the stem on the bottom lined up with the stem coming out from the top. Then I decided to make the bottom part less detailed than it was in the reference photo so that it blended out better with the one that was out behind it, because the one out behind it is really actually much further behind the pepper, and it blurred out quite a bit with that bokeh background. So I wanted them to look like they were from the same stem, even though technically they weren't. So I took some of the detail out of the bottom part and I added just a titch more detail in the top part. And in reality, the one that is below the pepper is closer to us than the one behind it. And even if it was the same stem, it would work that way anyways, because it'd be curving out behind that pepper. So I think I like this a lot better than it was originally and better than it was in my reference. And then I'm just cleaning up my edges and making sure everything lines up. And here is the final piece. This is what it looks like scanned in. It's actually a lot warmer in the scan than what you were seeing in my video. And I love it because it just brings back that summer feeling. I had a ton of fun with this, and I will definitely be doing more oil pastel this year because I've been neglecting it. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.
Wait, don't go away just yet. If you liked this video, you're sure to like this one too. Also, don't forget to hit subscribe.